And I believe we are live, my friend. Not alive, but we are live on another episode of the best of our week. Episode 70, man. We're turning old. Getting old in this thing.
No, we are all old now, aren't
70,
we?
man. I mean, it's a big mile. I mean, it's not like a massive. It's not like we turned 100. I
Yeah,
don't
we'll
know
have to
why I'm.
plan something fun for episode 100.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I really love that. So it is episode 70, on this beautiful May 19th,
Yes,
2022.
it
I
is the
always have to double
19th.
check.
Yeah,
Dates for me are very vague. You know what I mean? It's like a loose translation. I know it's somewhere between Monday and Friday because if it's on the weekend, I know I'm not doing half the things I do. So yeah, for
for
sure.
sure.
So welcome back, Juan. Hope you're doing well, Mr. Excitement,
Yeah.
my friend. A few
Last
massive
week
surprise.
we both got to take the wraps off embargoes. This week, another embargo, and in the midst of everything else that was going on, my Steam
Valve
Deck
decided.
order
Yeah, Valve was like,
finally shipped.
yes,
So we've got this bad boy in the
look
house
at
too.
that.
The big
Dude,
old Valve.
every time I see the Steam Deck, I always have a little bit of flashbacks to the what's it called? The Qualcomm.
Atari Lynx.
No. So okay, so
Oh,
last December when I was at Qualcomm at the summit, they had the X3, the new SoC for
oh
mobile
yeah, yeah,
gaming.
yeah,
I mean, obviously it's more Android related, like it's supposed to be more of an
for sure.
Android solution, but a larger screen, better grip, better cooling, and all of that good stuff. So every time I see the Steam Deck, I always get that little bit of that vibe because I haven't held one of, well, I haven't held a Steam Deck before. So obviously, the good thing about it is you finally got it. Made me want to
Yeah,
look if I can get one, and then it says third quarter of 2022. So they're getting better at
yeah.
their dates. So not bad. I can wait 6 months.
I mean, did you put in a pre-order?
I did. I wanted to put in the pre-order. I'll say that.
I would say
I held
if
back.
you're interested in that kind of mobile gaming,
Mhm.
because it's $5, and then you can decide when
Oh,
it's ready to
absolutely. Yeah, no,
ship
no,
if you
exactly. Yeah,
actually
yeah.
want to pull the trigger on it.
I, my, I'm almost tempted to say that I feel like by Christmas time we will
Hmm.
have a secondary solution. At least a more Android centric solution, not necessarily mobile
Well,
gaming in the
and
sense of what the Steam Deck can do. You know
and
what I
and
mean?
I mean, we're gonna talk about this Steam Deck like actually using it. I'm about 3 days into really like every free moment I have in between. Like, oh, I'm
I
gonna quick
assume it
render
was
on this
going to be
video,
total like media blackout on Juan. Once I saw the
and now I'm
picture
gonna
or the
play for a
thing,
bit.
I was like, I think we lost Juan for the rest of the week. Yep, that should be the timing when Juan just
Uh,
just falls off the face of the earth.
through Father's Day, Juan is going to be staring at this tiny little screen,
It's like
and it's not even worth
I
trying
am testing
to reach out.
everything under the sun. Not only did I install an eGPU, but I'm installing a
Yeah,
Ryzen
exactly. And
upgrade to
I
Threadripper.
resoldered the M.2 on there.
Yeah,
What I think is really interesting, because you bring up a great point. We're
yeah.
definitely going to be seeing Qualcomm making a bigger play. We know Nvidia is interested in this shot.
Mhm.
We saw developer listings go up for Nintendo. That Nintendo is looking for a team to start moving forward on whatever the next generation of Switch is going to be. I doubt
Yeah.
that's going to happen this year,
I
but we
I
know that
for
that's
for
in
Nintendo maybe not,
process.
but yeah,
And and when we look at, the Steam Deck joins a really healthy conversation that has only been fulfilled by smaller boutique players
yeah,
in this space. There are a number of these really tiny small form factor PCs that are built for gaming.
yeah.
And this design isn't terribly unique. It's just really impressive that for Valve's very first generation of it, it's come out as well polished as it has. So again, I mean, if you're interested in mobile gaming, the Nintendo Switch is still a monster.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you're like me and you're an old who has a pretty healthy library of Steam games, has been grabbing every free game of the week on Epic. By the way, free game of the week on Epic this week is Borderlands 3. That's still like a $60 game, so go
Hold
get
on.
it for
Epic.
free.
Do
I
not
mean,
have
like,
Epic
if you're listening
installed.
to this on the replay or if you're watching it right now, I'm not going to fault anyone in our chat suddenly vanishing to scramble over to Epic Games and grab their copy of Borderlands. I'm not the biggest Borderlands fan, but it's fun to kind of jump
I,
into that world, that like
absolutely.
ultra crude humor kind of first person shooter, looter shooter is a lot of
Mhm.
fun.
Say
And
that 10 times fast.
Borderlands is such
No, the
fun.
other one. Looter
Oh,
shooter.
the looter shooter.
Looter shooter. The
So
looter
and
shooter show on the episode 70. Yep. Go ahead.
and next up on my list of things to try on the Steam Deck is to finally figure out what the better way to get my Epic library on there is. I need to also do the same thing. Like my copy of Control came from Good Old Games, came from
Yes.
GOG. So it's like, I really want to play Control on this thing. I've got to figure out how to get other
Not have to
game
rebuy.
stores
Yeah,
on
yeah.
here. But
It,
you know,
okay.
when you're an old like me, the console generations get very frustrating. So I put out it's early access. It's on the Patreon. I think it's going to go
I,
public on Saturday.
I saw the note.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a rambling 16-minute video of just my hands manhandling the Steam Deck. Um, but one of the
Oh, I
things
thought
that
you were talking about the. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw the thing about the Steam Deck. I also saw your Vivo as well. Some of the other
oh
videos,
yeah,
the
so the
content. Yeah.
Vivo's public. The Vivo's good to go on all channels. But literally this afternoon, I put out my kind of first thoughts on Steam Deck after using it for a couple days. And one of the things I say in that video is my wife and I we're very different gamers, but we come together in these little nexus points. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're classic old school Nintendo kids. We love picking up like I've got the SNES Mini still connected to my TV here in the office. But it's got to be something really fresh to get both my wife and I kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
The only game that's done that recently is It Takes Two, and we both like it's just such a charming game. We really loved playing it. I don't think she really got why I was so excited for Steam Deck way back last year when I put in my pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
But once she picked it up and she goes into my Steam library and she's scrolling through years of old games, she lands on Portal and she's like, wait
Mm-hmm.
a minute, like Portal. And you're like, yeah, not like new Portal or Portal 2 or something. No, the original orange box Portal. She literally starts humming, you mean this was a triumph? I'm making a note here. Huge success. And yes. And it suddenly kind of clicked like this isn't when we had a PS3 and we bought tons of games for our PS3 and then
Mm-hmm.
we got our PS4 and none of it carried over. That
Yep.
burned my wife so bad on console generations
Mm-hmm.
that like she hasn't really been lit up for a Switch. We haven't been motivated to really run out there and try and grab our PlayStation 5. If we happen to catch one full, at MSRP, we'll try and grab it, but it's not
Yeah.
been a motivating factor. And she's holding the Steam Deck and like you can see that light bulb go off like I know you've spent so much money on Steam and it's all right here. Like
And it's
she's
portable.
going through like and it's portable and the button layout is great, the hardware is great. My daughter has suddenly gotten really interested in picking up the Lego games, Lego Harry Potter and Lego Star Wars, which I've had since they were originally launched. I liked just kind of going brainless and playing Lego Star Wars. Like it's
Oh
such
yeah.
a dumb easy game, you just kind
Oh, and
of your way through lightsabers.
yeah, we had Lego
um
Batman. We didn't go Star Wars on
yeah,
that run.
the Lego Batman games.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got most of the Lego collection. Now even my daughter's like, I think I need to get better at using a controller. My daughter has only been into touchscreen tablet-y kinds of games, and now
That's
she's
true.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I see mommy and daddy are both really interested in this, and now I'm gonna get interested in it too. So just the philosophy of it is taking the right set of compromises
Yep.
from a Nintendo Switch,
Mm-hmm.
but then stapling it to generations of games. Like I've been a Steam member since Steam first started, and just that marketplace hasn't let me down yet. For anytime I want to pick up an old game, I can go back and play it. If I want to go back and play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines,
Oh man.
that game hasn't aged well, but I can go back and play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's so refreshing
Yeah.
not being caught up, and the fact that it's basically just a mini AMD PC.
No, right,
that like
absolutely. The form factor alone for me is the appealing part. It's a bigger display, controllers, better cooling, good ergonomics overall, like the button placement and the mouse pad, and the fact that it actually looks pretty clean. Seriously, I mean, even on
it's
video, it seriously
it's
looks sick. Like I'm
it's
gonna drive over to your
shocking.
house on Friday,
No,
knock
I
on the
mean like
door at like 9 a.m. It's like,
um
hey man, can I borrow?
no,
Can the deck come out
we
and
need to
play?
do an in-person stream, and I might also reach out to Trish and see if we
Yeah,
can maybe for maybe a Friday morning or on her schedule. She's booked crazy
oh, I would
throughout the
imagine so.
summer,
Yeah, it's been
but
some time since we've had her on.
I really want to hang out in person again because I miss your face.
Hey,
But two, like it's just so immediate to pass it around, and again, you cover a lot of gaming on phones. I've been trying to work a little bit more gaming into my YouTube channel.
yeah,
Trish and I used to co-host on Newegg, where we would do a lot of our gaming stuff, but she's primarily a Twitch streamer,
yeah.
and like I mentioned, like I went over to her place and we got to kind of jump on a stream for a bit, and it was like immediate. Like we fired up Overcooked 2, and Trisha and I just started communicating like we used to back when we were hosting on Newegg. It was like, okay, I need
Nice.
that over here. Okay, can you throw it? Can you just throw it? Okay, I need rice. Get that boiling. Okay, I'll tackle the dishes. Like it just clicked. And she's
Tactical
exactly
approach.
the kind of
Yeah,
person
tactical and
for.
methodical through the whole. Yeah, no, I agree.
So good. She's so
You
good.
need the rice? Give me the
Um,
bowl. Give me the water. Toss it. By rinse it. Clean.
and in every way, again,
Yeah,
it's so hilarious that like when Trish and I talk about our families, like we are just sort of gender flipped in our relationships
yeah.
because her husband is super type A. He's got like an accounting background in Hollywood. My wife is very type A. She handles contracts and negotiations. You put them on a game like Overcooked, and they can't handle it. They lock up, and it's like everything needed to be perfect and precise, and I didn't make it all perfect and precise, and now everything sucks. And then Trish and I are like, yeah, okay, throw this, do that over here. We're the loosey goosey ones in our relationships, and yet we're sitting there like 3-starring every single level that we fire up on Overcooked. Sorry, short
For
story,
sure.
incredibly long.
Absolutely. In person, definitely.
It's yeah, we need to do it in person, so you can literally just pass it around, and it's so accessible. It makes all of the right choices, in my opinion. It makes all of the right choices for moving a game out of a room, a PC game out of a big box and monitor in a space that you're totally sedentary, and puts it into a Nintendo Switch kind of idea. So you
Can we get Call
instantly
of Duty
flip.
on it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so without, getting too specific about like what
How?
my wife does for a living, but
Yeah, yeah.
we have most of that catalog, so I mean, no reason. I'm not like flashing merch for any specific reason,
I double dog dare you. I'm gonna go my direction, my friend.
I love
It's
it.
not like I'm not subscribed to a certain ecosystem. No,
For sure. So
I
I,
truly
I
wanted, like, that would be for me the biggest thing ever. Like me being able to go
yeah.
on long rides. I'll like, honey, do you mind driving? Yes, okay, thank you. I'll be really
I
busy for the
mean,
next 20
genuinely, and
hours.
especially for the way that you play. The only thing that I think is going to let you down
Don't say
is like
frame
your
rate.
data connection.
Oh,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
in that, what I think is kind of interesting. We've been in this rush in phone tech.
Mhm.
I've done a number of videos. I've got my Red Magic here.
Yeah. The
So
Pro.
there
Yeah,
are
yeah. 7 Pro.
games. There are games on the Red Magic
Hmm.
that can play at 120 hertz, which
Yeah.
the Steam Deck isn't going to be able to do. We're starting to hit some of those points
Hmm.
where what we take for granted in just basic lifestyle phone tech can outperform a lot of our console tech.
Because we finally hit that normalization that you see a 90 hertz refresh rate at a budget price point, the
Yeah.
120 and 165, and I think I mean, so this is where I kind of a little bit got frustrated not frustrated, but more wondering why they would do it the other way. But the Red Magic 7 has 165 frames per second refresh rate display.
Hmm.
It's virtually faster, although it's technically based, I think, is on last year's display, where yours has a better display, if I'm not mistaken. I think the
I,
reason
you
why.
know, I think one of the major issues was the UDC.
Oh,
I think I'm. This is my guess. My guess is that in coming up with a more expensive camera housing for that selfie camera that hides very well. I mean, so much better than what Samsung has done so far. It hides so well under the display. I think you look at a screen that's going to scale better, but it doesn't really auto scale like other premium phones. You set 60/90 120. It doesn't really slide lower than that.
It's not a very high variable. It's pretty much.
But you make the compromise, like we're spending this much to incorporate the under display camera. We're going to whittle back on this, like how we're driving the display and whether or not it's going to cycle above. And it's not too much of a compromise when genuinely I can't find any Android games that do live over 120 hertz. So even when your screen can, because I've got the Motorola.
That's true.
My Moto Edge is 144, but there's no game I've played on it that can even spike to 144, let alone sustain at 144 hertz.
For me, I think was it Red Dead, not Red Dead Redemption. There's a couple of games like Dead by Dead. I'll get the game, but there's two games that I know that do push the 165 or the 144s. Real Racing 3 will always hit it.
All right.
It's not a very high detailed game, but it's a game that has a lot of moving parts. And then I think it's I want to say Dead Cells, but it's not Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a very different game. Long story short, there's a few games. It's an FPS.
Nice.
Okay, I got to find out what the game. This is bugging me because I know what it is. I downloaded it on every phone.
I feel like you pick up a Nintendo Switch and you expect the compromises. You expect that this is not going to be.
Thank you.
Dead Trigger?
Dead Trigger 3.
Did you say Dead Finger? You said Dead Finger because you saw the fingers, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. It's Dead Trigger, I think. It's Dead Trigger.
No, it's Dead Trigger.
Yeah.
But you know what? Dead Trigger doesn't hit 120 on all phones. I forget which one it was. I want to say it was...
and it hits it at different spots too, because it'll hit it like at the beginning when you're doing the cutscenes. It'll jump at a really high refresh rate, and then gameplay kind of fluctuates a little bit.
But I want to say it was maybe the Black Shark where I was expecting like, oh yeah, this should be able to handle 120 easy. Oh no, it's capped. But anyway,
and I was also wrong. It's Dead Trigger 2, not 3. Okay, well this is me. Welcome back. This.
I apologize for my co-host, ladies and gentlemen. How dare he? But what I was going to say though is because we've got to look at like portability. I'm going to take my Steam library out into the real world. You're not going to get that HEDT PC gaming experience.
No, don't get me wrong. My thing,
it very much is in line with something like a Switch.
Which one did you end up picking up? Was it the high-end model, or did you get the mid-range?
I went to the
SSD,
top-end storage. Yeah, so I'm at 512.
Okay, SSD.
And I mean, like loading games is reasonably quick. Obviously, the more graphics intense and demanding the game is, the longer it's going to take to load. But load times haven't really been an issue, and the immediacy of getting the game to play is easily balanced by, if I want to play a game on my super nice workstation with a great GPU in my office, I kind of need to prep just a bit. Or like I need to go to my office and sit down and boot that up and then get everything kind of ready for gameplay as opposed to streaming or video editing mode.
Yeah.
And the ability to just pick this up, push a button, even through the touchscreen, navigate to the game I want to play and get it started is so much faster, and it's so much more immediate. I am down to a point now in my grown-up life where I can easily count out minutes of time that eat into my gaming time. And if it's going to take 10 minutes to kind of get Office into the zone for where I can play a game, that might be a third of my gaming budget for that sit down. Like maybe I genuinely only have about a half hour, and that's why I've gotten so into phone gaming, is because I can whip out that phone, push a button, get into a game. It's maybe not the best game ever.
Well, I mean, I would debate they're getting better. on
No, no,
Sony.
no. But you know what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
I'm willing to make a compromise because I can spend 30 minutes gaming on my phone where I'll
Yep.
lose 5 to 10 minutes if I wait and set up my workstation to get it going. And
Yeah.
Steam Deck is now bridging that where I can now chip into some of these really great PC titles that have just been kind of sitting.
Mhm.
Like again, we all have so many games in our game libraries that maybe we really haven't played through. They're just sitting there and we've never fired them up. I've always wanted to, but the time it takes to really get invested in something is just a little too far for this sit down. So
Yeah.
just for the next half hour, I'm gonna just shoot some magnet balls or play some Tesla Force. I'll just kill some time on my phone. Now I feel like I can much more easily pick up, jump into a gaming experience, and then the save state is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
So again, if you're used to a Nintendo or now like PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox, if you need to just stop for a second, the system can very quickly save your state in that moment. You
Mhm.
push a button and then you're right back into gameplay again. And Steam Deck does that in a way that my desktop and my gaming laptop absolutely can't.
Okay. Good. Good. Good.
So it's
The
it's been very exciting.
the the configuration with 512, was that the one with 16 or 32 gigs RAM? 16, right?
I don't think there is a 32 gig option. I think they're all 16.
16. Because I always
I'm pretty sure the major differences are storage, and then the top end has a special etched glass front panel screen, um,
so the display that you have is
which I believe contributes almost nothing to the experience. Like I bought it for the storage. I wanted the one with the most GBs. I did not get it for any of the other. You also get like a special custom keyboard skin. It's a
oh
super bright skin. I don't want that. I want the default black keyboard with the white text. I'm an old. I don't want like a neon
you've said that a few times.
unicorn
Yeah, I know. You said we turned 70 on
rainbow
the
colored
episode, my
keyboard.
friend. I didn't say we're
So
turning.
so
Yeah, yeah.
none of the additional perks for the Steam Deck, buying it at the high end, appealed to me in the slightest. The only thing I wanted was the most storage that I could get my hands on. Because part of this is going to be the talking about on the channel and running different games through different benchmarks and like trying to describe performance. But at the same time, I also want like instant access to every single arcadey game that I
Yeah.
love to play. And
And
so
a
at
dedicated
a moment's
system
notice,
that is it's not shared with Microsoft Office and Windows Update.
exactly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a dedicated space that happens to be extremely mobile at a very good ergonomic structure. So
And,
I like the
and
function of it. Yeah.
and you nailed it right there too, where I love gaming phones, but if it were really my like for example, my SIM card is not in my Red Magic right now. My Red Magic has just been kicking around my house as a way to quickly pick up and play games for very short periods of time
Very.
in
Yeah.
decent little bursts.
Hmm.
And if this were my main phone, I completely appreciate some of the criticisms that other people have had that you're constantly getting served distractions.
Yeah.
You can do everything you want to like minimize distractions or turn off notifications on your phone or do not disturb or try to handle that. But when you want to get invested in a piece of media, if you're doing it on your phone, I understand why some people can't handle those like pop-ups, those interruptions. And again, moving your gaming, it's just like having a really nice digital audio player, like a
Hmm.
DAP with a really good DAC. You're moving your music listening to a dedicated device. It's going to be better for that specific purpose.
Yeah.
But
So I
I
guess you
also
were
think
right.
what's
Yeah, all of them have the same RAM. Sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I really appreciate that Steam isn't playing too many games with like horsepower configurations. It's an okay starter level.
Hmm.
If you just want to kind of pick up something for a game or two, like you've got a very specific idea of what you're going to play, the base model Steam Deck kind of makes sense. And you can always, pop in a memory card if you want some bigger but a little bit slower storage. I really feel the sweet spot is at 256.
Okay.
Depending on what kind of game library, what you're into, whether or not you're like me and you're kind of an obsessive hoarder of digital media, the 256 I think makes the most sense. I
Okay.
went big to 512 because I am that guy who wants my work games and my personal fun games all on there all at the same time, and I don't want to have to juggle
Yeah.
game installs to
hmm
deal with that. So that's why I took the step up. But genuinely, the RAM processing, compute power, I mean, it's shocking. You and I have both done little mini PC builds, right? Like little
Oh,
Nook
absolutely.
clones and
Yeah, yeah.
Azules and things like that. And this being like a little AMD, a 4-core, 8-thread APU in here,
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's crazy.
the
It's
fact that this is unseating, like that last Core i5 that I did.
mhm.
Do you still have the Geekom? Were you playing with the mini IT5? Was that the one?
No, I was honestly, I'm still waiting on the gig. I mean,
Okay.
works with them, but yeah, no, no. I've seen it at your place.
So obviously, this is not a Windows PC. So I'm not trying to judge it oranges to oranges.
No, no.
It's more powerful
No,
than a Core i5
this is a
laptop.
purposely built piece of hardware that does very well what it does because it's not everything else. But yeah, you're
And
right. It's not a Windows.
if you optimize for Linux, it definitely kicks the butt of any similarly priced Windows machine for
So this.
playing games.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we are taking a step down in resolution because I think a lot of people who have like 1080p laptops would want to try and game at 1080p, and this is
And most of
1280
those
by 800.
well, what I was also going to say though is 1080p laptops. Most gaming laptops are probably 1080p, 165, 170.
Sure.
The refresh rate is much higher than 60, which is what I was trying. I'm tempted to ask: is it 60 locked or is it
Yeah,
like
it's 60 hertz.
so? Okay, so
Yeah,
maximum is 60. Okay.
yeah. No, I mean that's what I mean. It's like you are definitely picking some Switch style compromises.
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna be playing at
What's the
a
lower?
reasonable frame rate for even some of these more demanding titles, and I think the experience is better and cheaper than if you got yourself an okay gaming laptop that can definitely outperform this.
Would be
But
much louder. You'd be tethered. You'd have to be it's a much different experience. I recently reviewed an MSI, like $1,000 gaming
yeah,
budget laptop, and
awesome. No, I mean the MSI gaming hardware has been bulletproof
oh no,
lately.
absolutely.
It's been
But
great.
what I would say though is, I would still likely go with something more like a Steam Deck because it is, although you do lose a certain percentage, you're gaining that mobility, you're gaining that functionality, being able to, save it, go on. I mean, if you have obviously Wi-Fi dependent or internet connectivity and data caps and so on. But I'm saying is essentially that's the exciting part of it for me. It's not the fact
Hmm.
that I can play the game here on my PC. It's the fact that I can pause it,
Yeah.
get in the car, get on the road, get, on my hotspot, and I can pick up where I stopped.
Hmm.
To me, that is absolutely epic. That's like really, really, really like a double bonus level kind of thing. So this is why I'm excited about it. But yeah, hopefully we can set up a time in the next few weeks, and we'll be able
Oh, for
to
sure.
maybe
I'm gonna reach out to Trish and just see what her schedule's kind of looking like, and then we should definitely try and do like an in person
well, whichever
three.
day we do, make sure we just don't do it on a really hot day. So let's just plan for.
All right.
Do you
Yeah.
remember that
We
one time we were sitting
just
Balboa Park
roasting.
with the? Yeah, I know. We've done both extremes: really, really hot and really, really cold.
But then also
Uh,
pass around like a real high spec, small fan gaming peripheral. Like, hey, just play on this for 5 minutes before it nukes itself.
and-
The rest of it, the experience so far has been pretty good.
okay.
I can't think of many gaming laptops that can hang on Arkham City for a couple hours and
Wow.
not die. I mean, I can get just about 2 hours of solid gameplay without plugging anything in, and it's just a standard 45-watt charger. So even your
That's not bad.
OnePlus charger is gonna keep it topped off above
Pretty quickly.
what
I
the
just
power draw is.
yeah, 40
Um,
40 PD on there.
because I want to say it's
Um,
about a 10,000 milliamp hour battery by comparison. They say it's a 40 watt hour. So, of course, you have to say 40 watt hour by 3.8 volt use is somewhere around a 10,000 milliamp hour battery.
it
So,
makes sense for that size of a. I mean, you have the span, you have the space, as long as it's not
mhm.
blocking any boards, or
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not making sure they're on top of any kind of heat generators. I think it should be perfectly fine. And you
Well,
have that
and
massive opening both on top and the
yeah,
bottom, right, and on the
that
back.
top vent here
Yeah.
is just like, I mean, if you were obsessively digging through all the teardown videos like I was, like this whole strip right here
hmm
gets pretty toasty.
Okay. But
but
it's standard. It's away
it's
from your hand.
nowhere near what you're really holding on to. So this like middle column from where the airflow is on this side,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of pulling up and then going out, venting out the top. This whole core section is where all the toasty bits are. And that's so refreshing after playing on some real high spec gaming phones that are getting
Yeah, yeah.
heat out of the screen that you're trying to interact with
Most
with your
do it.
thumbs.
It's not a it's not. I have a very few devices that are truly trying to protect the heat from the front, but typically,
Yeah.
yeah, when the phone overheats, it's dissipating heat in any shape, way, or form. So the display, the camera modules, around the buttons, on the side, on the railing.
Yeah.
So it heat has to go somewhere. Unfortunately, it has
It
to be.
does.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's either it goes to the back or to the front. But I like
But
the
I
fact that
also
at
did
least
a
you're
fan
able to play
test
longer.
on
Hmm.
on the video. So if you're on the Patreon, you can catch it now. If when you wait for the public version,
Uh-huh.
I was pretty impressed with the fan noise. I put it up directly against my Red Magic 7, so you'll get to hear pretty
Okay, I'll have to
clearly
catch.
how
I
different it
saw the
is than
notification.
that
I didn't
phone.
get a chance to catch the video. This week's been somewhat crazy for me
Yeah,
during the
we've
day.
been busy.
I was so busy that I literally only dropped one video and one video alone, and I've shot a separate video, but I need to do another one. Actually, tonight after we're done, I do need to shoot a little bit of A-roll to put a video out for tomorrow. So it'll be missed a missed the timing on it. But anyways, I did want to talk to you a little bit about the X80, but I feel like that's going to be a little bit of a chunk of a conversation. So felt
Sure.
like since I kind of already threw it in, um, so
Yeah,
for
get some
me,
link buds, man.
yeah, 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 no. So Sony just released the LinkBuds 2 or the LinkBuds S, very different than what I have. What I chose to go with, or I tried to basically get my hands on, was the LinkBuds, the original open back not in ear, the open back earbuds. Um, it was a weird solution at the time when I first heard about it. I was like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why people would want to, per se, keep something in your ear like this that you can wear on top of another pair of buds, or even use them to be more aware of the situation around you. So this actually, what I liked about it when I started using it, that it was, it's almost like it was for dads. I don't know if it was really like the best way to say it. You know what I mean? Like, because as a dad, I'm always working. I like using good earbuds, but
Do you enjoy
again,
wearing socks with your all-terrain sandals? These earbuds might be for
Look
you.
at you. Um, no, so for me, the way I really, really enjoyed, like for me, I like the one thing that made me over the moon about them and why I would probably
Yeah.
pick them up more consistently is literally what we're doing right now. I'm not saying that I don't want to pay attention to you guys or not listen,
Mm-hmm.
but let's say this was a presentation, a Zoom call. You're sitting in there. Sometimes you're in there for an hour, maybe two, but you want to
Sure.
listen to your favorite podcast or something like that. But you don't want to get that distraction, right? You don't want to do the whole half things, whatever. I found that the link buds are so small, right? And they're so
This whole
tiny.
time, you've been listening to other things this whole time.
I'm going through my mechanical binge right now, so I'm just gonna listen to the whole album. No, it was it was a weird solution for me because I started wearing them quite a bit to use them, and I like the fact that you could just basically put them in, and it doesn't change the way you listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about it, is that having them in or having them out, I can hear you the exact same way. It's not an artificial. It's not a processing of audio with microphones,
Yeah.
and they're trying to simulate or maybe amplify the surrounding. So that part I enjoyed a lot. I also enjoyed the fact that at lower decibels, you're able, or more medium decibels, you're able to actually enjoy your environment a little bit more. So I can sit outside, play some, nice, relaxing music, but then and still hear the birds around me. I can still hear
Yeah.
the woodpecker. You know what I mean? Those little things I enjoyed more. I also understand that they're not all rounders. They're not going to be for everybody. This is for a specific type of person that has those type of needs,
For
and I
sure.
think that for me it fit my normal work schedule. And while I was at Team Pixel last week for the
Mm-hmm.
Google I/O watch party, I needed to jump in onto a call, so I literally had with one ear. I was still able to listen and have everything kind of the whole immersion of two different systems. I just made sure I was muted. So uh,
Right.
I love that function, but these are not what you'd expect typically from an open back pair of cans, like well, not these, but like these over ear.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you probably want to be in a very quiet area. This is intended to be more around life. So I felt like it would be a nice kind of transition from talking Steam Deck and then bringing it back to
Well,
mobile.
yeah, I feel like Sony has the right idea. I mean,
Yeah.
just to kind of to put a pin in what you were bringing up there. They look to me like the higher quality audio version of a good bone conduction headset.
It's getting there. I think it feels that way. And for me, the biggest thing that I got with them, seriously, I was wearing them the whole time. It was the control, the gesture controls on this is you don't actually tap on the buds themselves. You tap for the area in front. So it feels the
Mhm.
vibration through the tapping of the skin, like right, you
Right.
tap right here. And it does the same thing, the double tap and the triple tap. So I've tried a couple of bone conduction ones, and honestly, this felt really good. It gets very nice, very bassy, if you want it, because it's beaming. Obviously, the audio is going straight into your ear canal,
Hmm.
um, but it's also very comfortable, and it just they felt like good buds. It's just no ANC and no artificial
Well,
pads
the
to it. It's just
opposite of ANC.
oh, absolutely, yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
it is not trying. This is why I said it. It's not trying to. There's no way to make it. I mean, this is
Right.
as good of ANC I could have done, right? Put the earbuds in my ear, get a pair of over ear cans, put them on top, boom,
What you
seal
need
them.
are those like airline, the
Oh, yeah,
people out on the runway, those giant
yeah,
like
the orange,
aviation
yeah,
protection
yeah, aviation
headsets.
protection, that level protection. And I think it should be we should be able to kind of appreciate it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a solution. It's a different solution. And of course,
Hmm.
Sony didn't abandon their standard model, which is the LinkBuds S that was announced today, probably available in a couple of days. Um, and so for me, Sony is like hitting out of park, right? So we get those, we get the XM4s over the ear, and then now we have the
Hmm.
LinkBuds S. So they're still putting out more stuff, and I couldn't resist it. I picked up the XM5s actually, not the XM4. So they will be here
I mean,
tomorrow.
I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on that. I really enjoyed Jeff's coverage.
Yeah.
El Jefe Reviews is
Happy
already
belated
jumping into
birthday,
the
Jeff. Hope
XM5s.
if you're watching, hope
Yeah,
you're
happy
doing great.
birthday! Someone tell him that we wished him a happy birthday. I don't even think he's in the chat right now.
No, I mean, yeah, please let him know. Yeah.
But yeah, some really cool stuff coming out from Sony, and I like that they're kind of. I like that the LinkBuds reactions were very uncertain from a lot of tech bloggers, and Sony has decided that this is a market that they're interested in, so we're getting a refresh. Like we're getting follow-up products. It's not just, oh, it wasn't an immediate success, so we're just going to give up. I really like that about Sony, where you
Yeah.
can tell their engineers have a bit more say
Hmm.
than just the marketing people. They're like, no, we're going to make some more, so figure out how to sell them. And you're like, okay, cool.
But
We'll get on
yeah.
that, Sony headphone team. Awesome.
And the last Sony piece of the conversation that I'd love to cover as well is, although we had a lot of fun, right? We had a lot of good time and opportunity to check out the early
Um,
hardware. Unfortunately, my time is done.
Same.
My device is bye bye. Went back to the motherland. With
Same.
both those little one Mark IV buddies. Does that make them two Mark
I,
8 or no? Yeah,
no,
I'd like.
I enjoyed my time with the Sony One Mark IV. I really
Yeah,
feel it's yet again it's another example of like a monster specifically built kind of phone, and
absolutely, absolutely. It's speaking my
the people who
language for
get it
some
are,
reason, but
really gonna get it.
oh yeah, yeah, no, no. My only regret in my entire coverage that I've done on over obviously on the phone is I wanted to try Music Pro. I don't know why. I want to try Music
Oh,
Pro. I
I
want
was
to see how
dying. I
that.
was hoping they could push it to us, and they were like, "Nope, you just have to send
No.
it back." And you're like, "Oh, come
Well,
on!"
and of course, now we're back at the bottom of the list, with the commoners. Um,
Right.
no, the reality is, I think it was still a great opportunity. My unit did get an update right before, like the day I was returning it, and in
Hmm.
my mind, my eyes like lit up. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! Did they just push an update? This thing got an update. What do you mean it getting update? It's not supposed to. Blah blah blah. All of the magical things that were happening, and then of course turned out just to be a security patch update. But yeah, couldn't get.
It
It's
is what
okay.
it is.
It is what it
Um,
is. But it'll be for another day.
before we completely jump off the topic, Danny's asking how far has Proton game compatibility improved from the Steam Deck launch.
Yeah.
I can't speak to the first wave of Steam Decks because I didn't have one. And while I was obsessively trolling through like first impressions videos and teardown videos, I wasn't really keeping an eye on my own library. The I like how Valve has structured their compatibility charts.
Mhm.
So there's like a tier for completely uncompatible, it's not going to work at all. There's a tier for plays but is not supported, and then there's a tier for, got the big green check mark, everything is good to go.
Yeah.
A lot of the games in that middle tier are getting the yellow question marks, the might be supported, might not be supported tier, simply because of things like menus might be a little too small to read. Like the
Okay.
gameplay is great, everything's working fine, but the game was obviously formatted for a different kind of
Much larger display.
monitor
Yeah. No,
or
of course.
display experience. And again, for a lot of the games that I like, it's like I don't have a problem with that if the game is playing phenomenally well. I mean, I can show you guys on mine.
I was about to. No. We do need a demo. We
compatibility
do.
chart.
We need. We
Okay,
need to fire
I'll
it
fire
up,
it up.
and maybe we'll end the show with you finishing. Getting into a match, and we'll maybe sail into the sunset that way.
So I was expressing to TK, like if I suddenly vanish or if my cameras all lock up, whenever I go to camera, it gets a little weird.
Hey. Okay.
Hey, that kind of worked. So
Yeah, let me switch you over here.
it turns
We're
itself
gonna
on
do-
pretty quick.
Yep.
I was
There
just
you go.
trying out this guy right here. You know what I'm going to do real quick? I'm going to turn off my overhead lights.
Sure.
So I'll be dark and moody, but you'll be able to see the screen with a little less glare.
Well, no, so turning it off for this actually wasn't as bad. Actually, it's pretty good. It just we lost a little bit of coverage at the bottom, but it looks good. Yeah.
Oh, here, let me also dial that up a little too. Okay. And get in a little closer. Look at that. And so everything
I want to be
here
able to count
is...
the I want to basically see Optimus Prime up close.
Oh, you want to be able to see, count every individual pixel of the 1280 by 800?
Yeah.
So right now we've got this top list here, and this is what I think is really well organized. So games that are great on the Steam Deck in my library, which I've only got about 300 games in my Steam library. 82 of them are rated for that green check mark, and I was actually kind of surprised. Things like Arkham City.
Aliens?
This is
Arkham
the
City.
Game of the Year edition of Arkham City. Beautiful. All of the other Arkham games are yellow are yellow question marks. This one got the green check mark. It's great. It's good to go.
I see where you're talking about the green. It's like the green check mark on the bottom right. Yeah.
Right. So there are a lot of things in here that are playing really well. I know a lot of folks are going to probably focus in on one very specific kind of gaming. This is a Switch kind of competitor, so it must only be good for kart racers and Crash Bandicoot, or I'm really into Cuphead. But like platformers, Metrovanias, or how do you say that? Metroidvania? Is that?
I think
like games like Dandara, that those have been great. I was really into Defense Grid. It's an awesome tower defense. I know.
Yeah.
Duke Nukem 3D.
Yeah, Duke Nukem. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm showing you, like, again, I am an old, so there are lots of funky games.
Yeah, Fable's right there, of course. Yeah. No.
So like, and again, it's kind of weird. Even for Valve, Half-Life 2, green check mark. Half-Life 2 Episode 2, green check mark. Okay. Half-Life 2 Episode 1, yellow question mark. It's so funny where
Valve
even
was like,
what would technically be a first-party game for a Steam Deck is not fully optimized for it yet.
The team that worked on. Oh, hey, look, Lego's over there. Oh, look at that. Nice.
Metro Exodus, Mother Gunship was fun. I enjoyed that one. The first Overcooked. Oh, actually, Overcooked 2 I have on my Epic library. I don't have it on Steam. And yeah, again, that was when my wife was like, "Oh, wait a minute, Portal." Like Portal is on this, and you're like, "Yeah, you just go play Portal." So Rise, Sonic Mania, and so these are just all of the games in my Steam library that are like verified.
Good so that's what the category is at the top, because I can't. I see all games, and then
yeah. So if I go to all games, like you can go through even more of my.
And so all games give you everything, right? The red, the yellow, and the green.
And so you can see, like, here, Counter-Strike. Yeah. Yellow. Oh, it's not a question mark. It's a yellow eye thing. But a lot of these yellow badged games are playing really well.
Oh,
It
Deus
might be
Ex
something
is
like
Deus Ex a yellow or green?
it's a yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. We didn't see it in yellow. But Doom is also in.
Hmm.
Is Doom 3D yellow? Or I it's like sorry. Last one. I promise.
So Doom is just we don't know if it works, and so I would need
Oh
to install that and see if that plays. But again,
yeah, yeah.
Doom 3 is in that middle tier of slightly older games where it might not hang with Proton at all. So
I only the only
you
reason I
kind of
asked
don't
that
know on some of those.
but you know what I mean. Like it's the mechanics of it are very. It's like a standard FPS type mechanic. Not a lot, but I understand it.
Hmm.
Either way, still the fact. I mean, okay, I take that back. Your collection is definitely extensive.
Well, I've got
And I
eclectic
chose my word
tastes,
very specifically because I want to make sure Aditya doesn't start.
but
Yep,
right
Aditya's
now,
in the
like
chat. Hey, Aditya.
in installed right now, like I had to give a run on Ape Out. Ape Out is just such a great game.
Hmm.
Cuphead, again, that is exactly the kind of twitch button shooting jump mechanics that you'd wanna play with. I just started playing Going Under. So this
Hmm.
game has the big old question mark. It doesn't like Steam, Valve. They really don't know if this game's gonna play well. The game's running great. The text is a
Oh,
teeny bit too small, but it's this quirky like kind of dungeon looter, but you play a game developer and you
hmm.
have to troll through the sort of basement of your startup to
Okay.
like eliminate old interns that can't afford to live anywhere else. Like it's hilarious.
I love it.
Mother Gunship, Hellblade has been playing surprisingly well, and that was a game that even gave the PlayStation 4 Pro a run for its money. Nero Voider is a really fun twin stick shooter, kind of like Enter the Gungeon. So I mean, really, depending on what you're into, you can
Well,
find classic gaming experiences. You can play arcadey. I
hmm.
think the only thing that I wouldn't play in this kind of like layout.
Yeah.
um, I still don't love first-person shooters when I'm on dual stick. I really like first-person shooters on mouse and keyboard. But really, the only thing that's messed me up is real-time strategy.
Okay.
RTS is not fun when you're trying to like even on these really great trackpads that they've got
Hmm.
on both sides of the screen.
Yeah.
You just don't have the precision to really accomplish things quickly. But tower defense has been absolutely phenomenal, where you can go immediately from trackpads into touchscreen, and you can. It's so immediate. It's so fast
So
to accomplish
what I
that.
was wondering is it possible to maybe get like a 1 minute, maybe like a 30-second demo of game how the mechanics of
Yeah. What
gaming
do you want
are?
to see? Do you want to
Uh,
see something a little arcadey
I would go
platformer? Do you want to
absolutely
see,
no arcadey for me. Anything with a lot of movements in there, obviously from the green check
or
mark
actually,
list if possible, or whatever you feel like already works.
um,
Well, you already have
yeah, we
Cupheads
can.
installed, right?
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got Cuphead.
why not?
I'm
So
gonna
this
turn
is
the volume down though, just in case, because I don't want us to get what our video like
yeah, yeah.
copyright struck. I don't think it would be a problem, but
No, I know.
you can never be too
We just
careful.
get it. Okay, well, I'm gonna make my own soundtrack. Doo-doo-doo. MDHR Studio.
The speakers are pretty decent. I still need to do some testing on the headphone jack, but the headphone jack has been solid.
Yeah, I
Um,
forgot somebody on Twitter. Was like, Juan, we need to deep dive on the audio
I
experience on this
know.
ASAP. Don't do the unboxing. Don't do
So
anything. Go
I'm
straight to the
playing
headphones.
this at an extreme angle so that it's lined up with my camera.
Thank you.
Um,
I
but so
originally, yeah.
I will probably biff it on this next wave of.
Spud.
Ooh, I landed
Hey.
it. Okay, good. Whew. That would have been embarrassing because this is the very first boss in Cuphead. Yeah, I mean, like I think people would be really hard pressed to look at this and say like, oh, it's not got enough pixels, and I need it to be 240 frames per second. Like this is exactly what I want when I'm kind of on the go, and I'm willing to even cap it a little bit for better battery life.
Dude, this actually, from my angle, it looks really, really nice. That
It's
that
solid.
form
It's a good
factor and the
IPS
fact that you're
display.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. The design of the Switch is absolutely the right design for what it's purposed for. There's no question that the design is amazing, and I think what they did here is obviously it's a much more powerful system than what a Switch could be, but it's the form factor. That's what I like about it, and the display is actually large enough.
Oh, whoops.
And you shot the
That was dumb.
yeah.
I
See,
thought I had my other power up.
Oh, so no,
mistake.
at the end of the day, you could see how easy it is. It was very easy to get into the library and also pick the actual game and launch it. And obviously, it's already installed. This is not download and run right away. But I like the fact that it is something that you can take your experience with. The reason why I was asking you before about Call of Duty, because of a Call of Duty by itself will eat up half of that storage on the 256. Oh no, not half of the 512 just to install. Right, this is not including the the buffer and all of that other stuff that it needs. So yeah, there are absolutely some games that you can definitely wreak havoc with the storage, and this is where 512 makes sense. I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time researching this, but are they upgradable? Are we not able to open them and swap the SSD at all?
Technically, yes, but I appreciate some of Valve's concerns where they have chosen very specific components to fit this shell, to fit this power, to fit. So you want to be really careful when you're sourcing parts.
Absolutely.
I'm going to exit out of this, and while we're talking, I'll fire up Hellblade just because I think it looks real pretty.
No, absolutely.
You just got to be really careful. And let me put it that way. I don't think it's as doom and gloom where in the actual Valve teardown, they did their own teardown video.
Yeah, I remember they posted. Yeah, they did it first before.
If you touch the wrong part of this logic board, you could die. And you're like, I don't think that's accurate, but okay. But if you want optimal performance and you want to make sure that heat is getting out of this appropriately and you want to make sure it's running as best as it can, I think you just got to be really careful with what drive you source and how you get it installed. I think I believe it's totally possible. It's totally doable. But I'm also, this was too important for me to tinker with. Like, I really want this to be a smooth running, consumer focused experience that I can also dabble and tinker with a little bit for the software. I didn't want to get this to tinker with the hardware too much.
No, I mean,
the other thing is, like, it's also got a really killer desktop mode because it's just a KDE build of Linux.
So in one of the image that you shared with the video post that you did on the Patreon had that in there. So I saw that. I was like connected to the next dock. I'm like, yeah, that's really nice.
And that's also what's cool is that USB-C supports video out. It you can throw it to KDE and extend.
Does it charge your Steam Deck?
Oh,
nice.
Now, when you're connected to something like a laptop dock, it's only going to kind of trickle charge it. Like you might still lose battery life over time. My Next Dock and my UPerfect, they can't put out enough juice to overcome the power draw.
Yeah, but it needs 40. We said 40. It comes with a 40.
It's a 45 watt. Yeah.
45 watt. Yeah. So imagine that much power draw. You're right. It'll be more like you said, HS power control to a kind of
exactly. So, but I mean, like, check this out, man.
Dude, this looks amazing.
1280 by 800.
Can we zoom in a little more? Can we get into the or actually no, we do need to see it in the display. There's another thing. If you zoom too much and it looks like you're streaming something.
I think if I get
it that's right. Nice. There. Oh no. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm trying to look at the shadows, the the reflections and everything. I mean, this is actually rendering pretty well.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, I don't know how well it's coming because my mic isn't right in front of the air vent.
Yeah.
But it's definitely cranking up the fan a lot harder than when we were playing Cuphead.
Well, definitely a lot more detail. Definitely, like I said, the colors, the shadows, the sun reflections. I mean, this is really how
So
how you want a portable experience. Yeah, that level,
I,
this type of
I
game,
really
not always.
think like
Mhm.
getting into the sort of once this gets a little older and a little more mature, and once Valve starts talking about like a Steam Deck 2,
Uh-huh.
I think one of the major improvements we'll see is better support for like compressed gameplay, like FSR,
Hmm.
or DLSS, the AMD's version of DLSS. And once we can start tackling some of that more in hardware,
That looks
your
really good.
visual experience is going to look indistinguishable from running a today what would be a 3070 in terms of graphics performance on a screen this size.
And portability and the ability of being able to use
Hmm.
other displays. I mean, if it's 60 frames per second, you connecting it to the next stop makes perfect sense. You connect
Oh,
it and you have a
totally.
portable, your total PlayStation. I mean, not PlayStation, but you know what I mean, like a portable station where you can play games, but not. Anyways.
Oh, and what I can show you here real quick. So again, we take this for granted on current generation consoles now,
Hmm.
but I just hit my little power button here, and it
So it's
shuts
just
itself off. It kind of blinks itself, away,
it
and
hibernates,
like
right?
I put it down and I go and I cook dinner and I hang out with Lex and Marie and like, oh, let me get back into playing that game, and I push the little power button, and there it is.
Yeah. So I attested. Yes, exactly. That's exactly how the PlayStation, as you said before,
Right?
the PSP,
It's
the
so
PS5.
quick.
I, I'm playing Horizon West now, so obviously, I not that I say Call of Duty is not great, but sometimes I just want a nice, relaxing, open world, amazing not open world, but cinematic and graphics. Sorry,
Hmm.
which is the game that you're playing right now reminds me quite a bit of actually.
Oh yeah, Hellblade is good times. It's definitely an emotional trip of a game. The combat is kind of rudimentary.
Hmm.
For me, it was kind of a nice palate cleanser after I got burnt out on Souls and Sekiro and those
Hmm.
kinds of games. So it's not like that. You still have the same like light attack, heavy attack, parry, dodge, that kind of a thing, but it's definitely not as like if you're playing Elden Ring, that's a cut above. This is something that's a little more simplistic, but the whole story is kind of remarkable, and the audio effects are really cool. So if you want something that's a little fresh on
Hmm.
this kind of third person action fantasy, I really, really, really like Hellblade. And
I
it's
like
not
it.
too much older. It still looks pretty good.
Oh,
But on top of that, here I'm going to exit out. And lastly, it's just kind of silly because I kind of borked the install,
on
so I didn't mean to pack on everything. But if you look at my list at the top there, I've got great on Steam Deck. And these are not. This is all of my games,
yeah.
not the games that I have installed. Then all of my games, whether they're great for the Steam Deck or not. Then the games I have installed, and then non-Steam titles. And if you notice, I have like 1,800 non-Steam titles. Uh, because I imported my collection of ROMs from my NAS, and not
Oh
all of
man,
these are playable because I didn't do the plugins for Emo Deck
yeah.
correctly. But most of my NES and most of my Super Nintendo library are good to go. I need to go through and clean out like my N64, but you can get up to PlayStation 3 emulation going, and it handles PS3 emulation decently well.
Nice.
Um, I'm very surprised because PS3 emulation is not easy. So again, it's just remarkable what you can do with a nerdy little mini PC, and now this one's just got all of the accompanying hardware to make it a phenomenal gaming rig at the same time.
No, no,
It's it's
I
it's
don't.
really it it's really been lovely. It really has been, and it's exactly what I needed in
Mhm.
terms of immediacy. Like I'm happy to make some of these compromises just so I can spend every minute of my downtime
Yeah.
actually playing a game and not waiting for something to load or something to install or setting up my office. So
No,
it's really been nice.
absolutely. Ron Guido is asking is, have you taken it outside yet? How is the brightness?
It's a 400 nit display. That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
It's so I my daughter after school will take her out on like a little fun play date. She'll just hang out at a park, and
Hmm.
you won't really want to play in direct sun. Like that's just not a thing.
Oh no, and yeah, you wouldn't do that.
But
You wouldn't necessarily let me sit at the beach with my macchiato or whatever. I don't know why I said
yeah,
macchiato. Anyways, um,
but yeah, I
because that's
was
probably what I would be drinking. Because I don't. Anyways, doesn't matter. You know what I meant. I don't
yeah.
feel like that's the environment that a system like this would work.
Well, and
But it's
also
more.
I'll be curious to see like how hot can I run it? Because if I'm outside and it's 90 degrees outside and I'm in the sun
Oh, you're gonna
and
get
that
a lot of
thing's like really
opportunities,
cranking
my
up,
friend. Yeah, the heat this year seems like it's coming
I'm
up
gonna
early.
try. At some point, I have to believe it's gonna throw like a thermal warning or some
It
kind
had,
of like
but you
performance
had. So the thing about
pop
it
up
though
or
is that you
something.
actually have cooling. Like you have a legit cooling system. This isn't. Don't get me wrong. Red Magic does it really well, but at
For
its
sure.
core, the Red Magic is just barely moving air across the hardware on the inside. Where your system actually has an actual fan system that actually, and then
It,
it's
it's
set up in a way to
it's
circulate,
doing
not
better,
circulate.
but if the
Yeah,
air that it's pulling is
it's
already
hot.
like 90, 95 degrees. So,
Mhm.
but for Ron's question,
Yeah.
it was great in kind of light mixed shade.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm sitting at one of those little cement picnic tables, and there's a tree that's just kind of giving me a bit of shade, and
Hmm.
I'm sitting and I'm playing, and I'm like I'm getting into it. I
Okay.
actually did finish a Tetris marathon round uh, outside
Yeah.
in the park. I'm playing Tetris Effect, and like I was really into it. I had headphones on, the music was going, it was really really great. It's totally. I think it's kind of perfect in that kind of public transit commute. Like maybe you're riding a bus, and sunlight's gonna be a factor, but it's not direct harsh sun on the screen. It's gonna hang pretty much anywhere you're gonna want to use it.
I like it. I like it. Like I said, I can't wait to try it. Hopefully, we can work out the time in the near future. Um, but I did want to also talk about the fact that I mean, don't get me wrong, Steam Deck is amazing. It's big. It does a
Hmm.
lot of nice bells and whistles.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna
there's
turn my whole
another.
channel into just a Steam Deck channel. So there's
Oh,
not really
well then.
anything else worth talking about. That I think we
So the
can pretty
best of
much
your
just
deck,
wrap
is
the
that what's gonna
show.
happen? Is it going to be
And
Dex or no? Juan's on
KDE,
deck. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Juan's on
Come on,
deck.
Juan's on deck. Come on, Juan's on deck. You
That was
got it.
good. That was way better than the lame joke I came up with. No, I mean I got to give
Yeah,
you
no,
props on
no,
that one. That was excellent.
yeah. I'll be here all weekend. Please tip your waitress. Out.
Exactly.
No, no. So, okay, a couple of weeks ago, you and I had an opportunity to hang out, and I'll be very honest with you guys, everybody in the chat. I saw the phone, but unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to check it out or play with it. But it is okay. So we already have one video, one out of three videos that dropped. Thank
Hmm.
you very much. Obviously, you're able to unveil, start talking about the X80 Pro. Um, is
Yeah.
there an X80 Pro Plus? Or is it just a Pro? Or is the Pro plus
So
the minus or the
right
plus?
right now, I do not have official confirmation from Vivo that they will be doing a Pro Plus. It
Okay. So
seems that Vivo is dividing some of their regions on Qualcomm versus MediaTek. And
so
so,
I saw that comment as well. Yes, depending
yeah.
on where you're getting it, you're getting it in with a
So the
9000, I think. Yeah.
X80 Pro is a direct replacement for the X70 Pro Plus. Those are the
With the
same.
Qualcomm chipset. As opposed to where yeah, okay. I get what you mean.
But the X80 is the replacement for the X70 Pro, which was their slightly lower tier. The X70 Pro
And I think you had
is
Dimensity
an
1200 last year, right? On the Pro?
I think so, yeah.
It was
But
the
it's
best
it's
Dimensity
it's
that you could
still
get at the time, but yeah.
really good. It's just that it is built and it is marketed to be sort of an upper mid-range, lower premium tier. Like
Hmm.
it's not their crown jewel. It kind of exists there. So the X80 is that. So it's basically you just cut the obnoxious plus off the
Trust.
Pro, and you've got the same phone, the sort of the new version of the same phone from the X70 Pro Plus. I think it's a little confusing the way they've named it all, and I think there are people who are now expecting that Vivo's gonna launch a Pro Plus that's gonna do even more stuff, but the core, like, awesome camera, great fingerprint sensor, custom sensor, third generation Zeiss collaboration,
Yeah.
ridiculous AI processing. This is the replacement for the X70 Pro Plus. If you're waiting for an X80 Pro Plus because you think that's what's going to replace the X70, it's here now. That's what the Vivo X80 Pro is the replacement.
I mean, so is it too early to call worth it to go 1 year upgrade, or is it more? I want the answers from episode 3.
I'll be totally frank. You know, obviously, anything that I say about Vivo right now, the X70 Pro Plus rocked my socks. I was the only one in what's his name, Android Basha.
You mean Middle East? Salah.
Because he does his yearly wrap-up video with all the different content creators.
Salah has his name. Salah.
Oh my God, I couldn't remember Salah's name.
But,
So I was the only one to even mention Vivo in that video. So I was utterly and completely charmed by the X70 Pro Plus. It has punched well above its price tag, in my opinion, for tackling gobs of my B-roll. You got to use it out at CES.
I had it for about a month or so, and that day of returning it was the worst day ever, because I was oh my God,
monster performer.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have the X70 Pro Plus, and mind you, I am collaborating with, and I have been sponsored by Vivo to do a trio of videos, I think it's okay if you just stick with your X70 Pro Plus.
Okay.
Nearly everything on the X80 Pro is refined over the X70. The X70 Pro Plus is still ridiculous in 2022.
So last week when we were
it's intense.
So I was not last week on Monday, I think, after you dropped the video, I was actually Googling and trying to see how much is used. I mean, there's one, I don't know if it's still available. Last week it was there on Swappa for, what was it called? $950 and $969. It was actually a pretty reasonable price for a decent size.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So for the only reason why I asked is, we get year-over-year upgrades sometimes. Sometimes they're worth it, and sometimes they're not. Like right now, I really feel like Sony has a very good case in their court why you would consider getting a year over for this one.
Yeah.
But with Vivo, for me, the phone just operated it's a different way, but when it runs, it ran well. It did great in low light. Like I said, I took it with me to CES and I covered it. And I had a lot of low light shots that I had to shoot, and I was doing reels and shorts and so on that. So for me, the run and gun kind of experience, the X70 Pro Plus was hanging there. The mics were great, and I'm hoping that obviously since with the refinement on this one with the X80 Pro, maybe somebody that has an earlier generation, like I'm assuming like X60 or maybe something before then.
Or even like it's like an X50, X60. I mean, jump on the X80. I mean, it is top to bottom so well improved, and what Zeiss is doing with the computational photography, what the hardware refinements have delivered. I mean, so much of that is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I feel someone on an X70 is likely going to appreciate the refinements, but it's more the lifestyle stuff. Like going back to the X70 Pro Plus now, I'm not hurting too much on the camera side. I immediately miss the fingerprint sensor. That the iQOO 9 Pro and the X80 Pro have that
the one that sees your finger from 6 feet away. It's like, hey, that's a finger.
Like where the entire bottom chunk of this phone is fingerprint sensor, and you don't even really need to look at where you put your thumb to unlock your phone on a touch screen.
That's crazy fast. That was crazy fast for sure.
Well, and not just crazy fast. To me, it would even be okay if it were slower. It's that it's so broad.
Yeah.
I don't have to like train muscle memory to hit one specific spot.
This was announced in 2009.
Touchscreen.
The new faster sensors, the fingerprint sensors, were announced in 2019. And it's surprising how many companies have chosen not to.
Because they're expensive.
Oh, I don't get me wrong. No, I get it, but I'm like thinking, when with Samsung and charging that much money and getting us into the 1,000
Right.
plus.
Now, Samsung made a huge deal. What was it from? I think it was S20 to S21, where it's like it got 10% larger. And you're like, this is 4 times the size
Size
of a
of, yeah.
Samsung fingerprint sensor. It's insane. So, but I don't want to get us too sidetracked here.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
really
Please, yeah,
saying
yeah.
like X70 Pro Plus to X80, um, it's stuff like that. Like
Okay.
I miss the fingerprint sensor. Performance is pretty similar until you really try to drive it into something like crazy 4K project video rendering, and
Yeah, yeah.
then it's not a foregone conclusion that the 8 Gen 1 is going to win. 8 Gen 1 absolutely shines in short bursts of high performance,
Hmm.
and an 888 or an 865 can sometimes catch and beat it if you've got a longer process. Vivo has done a very good job of managing the thermal performance on this phone,
Hmm.
but it's still being managed somewhat. So it's a little different than like a Motorola or a Sony, where they'll let you go if you want to
No.
run your phone incredibly crazy hot. They'll let you do it, and you'll suffer the thermal throttling.
Yeah.
I kind of feel Vivo has a bit more performance manipulation up front happening when you don't have it in high performance mode, right? When you,
Yeah.
you don't dig through your battery stats or anything like that. So I think they've done a very job of minimizing the impact, or the phone never really seems to run screaming hot. The phone's never like stuttering or performing poorly. It's not winning any of my benchmarks, but it's always performing very consistently. And I've been shooting on it really heavy in 80, 90 degree heat, where under almost the same, like the last day I had the Sony, I took it out and I was shooting side by side with the Vivo and with the Sony.
Hmm.
The Sony is so much more efficient at getting you through all three camera sensors. You don't have tons of different modes and HDR and AI and portrait. I mean, it's a camera. It's a camera. So I was shooting way more on the Vivo to go through all of my HDR shots, then
Hmm.
all of my pro raw shots. Then I'd also take some pro super raw shots just so I could compare raw file against super raw. And then I would also look at something else that was site specific, if it was a portrait mode or if it was a Zeiss color mode or something like that. I was often shooting about twice or sometimes 3 times more on the Vivo than I was on the Sony. And the Sony started giving me thermal warnings,
I got
and
that a
I
couple of
never
times.
got
Yeah.
any thermal warnings on the Vivo. That being, I
Okay.
mean, the Sony didn't shut off on me. The camera still performed brilliantly. It's a prototype and it's early software. It's not a retail unit. The
No.
phone didn't let me down, but it was warning me that it was hot. And there was nothing on the Vivo. Like I didn't have a stumble or a thermal throttle or dropped frames in video. Like
Hmm.
it was a champ.
Okay.
So it really is kind of an interesting conversation when we're talking about like what a high end, premium tier, expensive phone camera experience should look like. And Sony, I think, has definitely got the lock on sort of photojournalism,
Hmm.
documentary, vlogging, like professional level vlogging, and
Hmm.
then some of the best video options available on any phone. And the Vivo is very different. This is some of the most insane computational photography, low light performance, massive sensor, natural depth of field, and some of the best portrait modes I've ever seen. So they're like both pro tier content creation
Oh
machines,
yeah. Yeah.
and yet
No,
they still
absolutely.
couldn't be more different if you tried to make two phones with cameras as different as you could possibly make them.
It like you said, in Sony, it's the Alpha team, but I do appreciate the options and the configurations that we get with the Vivo. The X70 Pro Plus, like I said, served me very, very well, and
Hmm.
I used it in so many different scenarios. But more
Yeah.
so because of the phone, I feel like I was more comfortable creating all types of content, like there are shorts and trying to cover
Yeah.
CES in bits as opposed to trying to put like one long video that I feel like people won't watch. This way you get to pick what you want to watch. But yeah, it was very, very good. I love the processing on it, honestly. Although maybe in gaming in certain situations, I got used to the UI. I got used to the functional the way the camera takes a second to step between this, when you're changing lenses and so on.
Hmm.
Um, it becomes second nature. I mean, realistically, as it's so consistent, and that's what I appreciated of
Yeah.
it.
And you
Um,
can count on it. Like you can
yeah,
plan ahead for how that might occasionally, now how that, I shouldn't say occasionally does it. You can kind of plan ahead for, I'm doing this and I need to swap to this lens and I know what that transition feels like.
yeah,
But again, when I'm shooting for my camera deep dives and my camera reviews, like I'm sitting in one spot and I'm trying to hold the phone as still as I can to keep the same frame, and I'm toggling through Zeiss and HDR, and then I'm going ultra wide and then normal and
mhm,
then medium telephoto and super telephoto, switch to the manual modes. I go through that whole run again. I wait for just a second to let the phone like kind of finish processing everything in the background, and then I shoot some video samples. Like I'm having to hold steady for sometimes like a minute or two at a time to get through all of that. You get a
mhm,
feel for what the phone is going to do very, very quickly, and it doesn't twitch like sometimes Samsungs get stuttery just when you're navigating basic UI elements.
mhm.
Like the Note 22 was refreshing for actually being as smooth as I felt like Galaxies should be,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's still locked up on me occasionally. But I mean, thinking back to like the Note 20 and the S20 Ultra, like you would just try and scan through your modes on the camera, on the sort of mode selector on your camera app,
Mhm.
and like the animation that they would put in would start janking like crazy just to get you into the next mode. Nothing like that happens ever on the Vivo. It's so sure-footed even when you know it's not the fastest. And that's I think an important feeling
Mhm.
is it's not going to win a wind sprint. It's not going to win the quarter mile,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
feels like it's going to go with you on the marathon of work that you need to get done.
Yeah, but what I meant to no, I'm with you. It's um actually no, sorry. So you were talking about the field, and it hit me in like, is it as weight wise? Is it about the same weight where the
Yeah,
again,
it's
I
pretty
know I keep
similar.
saying the feel in the hand. So because that was the first thing that surprised me about the X70 Pro Plus when I got it from you, that it actually was substantially heavier than most devices on the market, even
Oh
like
yeah.
heavier than I want to say even than no, not the Note 20. Note 22 wasn't out yet. But at the time, I must have had I can't remember. All I remember is at the time when I borrowed it, I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
mean, I can hurt somebody or I can hurt myself if it falls down. That's
I I mean, even it's I think it's a little bit better balanced than the Mi 11 Ultra, but it is a
okay.
hefty bugger, and that camera stack on the top of the phone definitely makes it just a little top heavy for how you
Okay.
hold it. But yeah, that hasn't changed significantly. It's kind of like that terrible joke from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like it feels good, it's heavy, reliability.
It's
Like
reliability.
from Boris the Blade. Um, it's a bit chunky, but I've been going back and forth between a couple different devices now where a little extra weight, if it brings capability, doesn't bother me.
Oh
Like
no, no,
I
absolutely.
went from Steam Deck back to my Red Magic 7, and after holding the Steam Deck, I was like, wow, this Red Magic 7 Pro is now so much more reasonable in size. Where before I had my Steam Deck, I would have told you this is such a chunky and heavy phone. And you're like, it's all perspective. Once you kind of get your wrists used to something,
When it comes to
it's
gaming, yeah, the more controls, the better. But controller obviously is a great opportunity to keep you mobile. Obviously, mouse and keyboard would be ideal. Yeah, no, exactly. And you've been using controllers for quite some time. It's not new. Um, so Farhan has
But
a quick
you're
question.
talking about like what I think it's what it should be used for. Um, I don't know if I'm going to do a lot of video coverage on it, but I also splurged on a Beast grip.
Oh, the
So
small rigs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, yeah, I mean it's like a
Is it
small rig, but it's
okay?
the name of this company is Beast Grip. So they
Beast.
they make specifically they've got a camera plate that actually has a little flexible membrane
Hmm.
because you can't always predict like what phone is going to have like a big protruding camera sensor or if it's
That's a
going to
good.
be a big
Yeah, yeah.
plate.
No, absolutely.
So I have one of the small rigs. It doesn't line up. The phone's almost always at an angle back away from
Okay.
the plate, so it's hard to get a lens on there. So now, like we're saying, like, hey, I like to take my
Makes sense.
Vivo and I go out and I shoot and do all this stuff. Like, how does the phone feel? And you're like, well, if I'm shooting video, it's gonna be in something like this. So it feels as good as it needs to. I don't
Okay.
know. This is big and chunky, and I'm gonna have a mic on it and lights and probably another hand grip once I buy one. So I guess it's not too fatiguing to hold.
It,
So
it
that's great.
it depends. The biggest thing I think a lot of people worry about, the weight and so on. Like you said before, it was the weight distribution. Because if it's not weighted right, if it's too top heavy or
Yeah.
bottom heavy, I prefer a well balanced. And most devices, like the OnePlus actually did a much better job this year. I feel like it's the 10 Pro.
Hmm.
So the biggest thing I would probably say is I'm looking forward to is, are you able to share roughly what the second and third videos are going to be on, or is that part of
Yes.
it once? I mean, not to say obviously what's in them, but the title, like the subject, or the.
Oh no, I'll tell you guys what we're gonna do.
Okay.
There's no great secret about that. The embargo on the phone is lifted, so I can say whatever. Video one was just an overview and a tour. I'm very, very, very service level. I mean, we did this
Yeah,
by design because videos 2 and 3 are going to get a bit more specific.
I love that.
So video one was just a tour. We're talking about the different camera sensors, some very, very simple samples of just what it looks like to switch from ultra wide to medium telephoto to super telephoto, and then going through each of the camera modes.
Okay.
Because if you've shot on a Samsung, if you remember LG, and I feel
Hmm.
like Vivo also lives in this space too, there are so many modes. If you don't know that, like, this phone has like a special stabilized mode for long exposures so that you can do light paintings, like, you've got to dig into those settings. So we just wanted to do a very broad overview, just start us off there. Video 2 is going to be speaking a bit more specifically on kind of what's new for the X series.
Okay.
Some of the lens changes, very subtle tweaks over the X70 Pro Plus. Again, I feel very solid on the X70 still, but there
Good.
have been these little tweaks, these little refinements, showcasing the coprocessor a little bit more, because they've got a whole special second imaging coprocessor that tackles a lot of the phone screen manipulation,
Hmm.
and is also responsible for just like these insanely fast low light capture options. Like, the night mode on this thing is just, it's insane. You'll land a shot in half the time it takes a Pixel 6 to scan it, and the Vivo's going to put out a brighter, cleaner image, and the colors are more accurate. So
I like
even
that.
when I'm in like near blackout conditions, the Pixel 6 Pro does very well.
Hmm.
The Vivo beats it on every single metric. It
Wow.
does it faster, does it brighter, does it cleaner, and has better color accuracy. Like, it's literally magic. I
I
don't
like it.
know how they do it, but they do it through this little coprocessor. And then in video 3, I'm going to be repeating a testing and a comparison that I did with the X70, where I'm going to put the X80 up against my Panasonic. I've got
Okay.
a 24 millimeter lens that has the equivalent, not just the equivalent focal length, but also the same equivalency for the aperture.
Okay.
And head to head, it's just absolutely stunning what we can pull off with a phone camera. So video 3 is going to be like kind of the more brutal nuts and bolts. Let's really talk about the math and the sensor and the optics and the science of light, and we're going to kind of put all that together. By design, we wanted to go super, super simple and broad to start, a
Hmm.
little bit more focused with more samples for video 2, and then video 3 is like the hardcore geekery if you get into camera lenses and optics.
And Aditya, of course, has to bring back the amazing Faraday cage concerns with Juan, and which shows up in most of his videos. Believe it or not, no. Um,
That's hilarious.
yeah, he's not testing Bluetooth buds yet. Unless did they send you buds with them as well? So it's like a Vivo
No,
buds.
and it's
No.
I wanted to reach out to them. Like, again, I'm so focused on just getting these videos done because this has been exciting. Like, actually working with the company.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a little bit more insight than what I would normally get if I were just like handed a reviewer's deck. I'm having back and forth conversations. I've been able to put in a few things like, hey, it would be really nice if we could have focus peaking in this mode, or what do you think about some of the audio control options for your manual video? Wouldn't that be kind of neat? So
Okay,
having
nice.
that like direct open dialogue with not just PR, but also some of the Vivo engineers has been really refreshing. So I'm focused on just getting these 3 videos done. And then I'm going to try and reach out because like the earbuds that I'm wearing right now
Mm-hmm.
are the Vivo ANC. Like they're just so comfortable. Like they're some of the most comfortable buds that I own, and I basically just keep them paired to my PC all the time. If I need to jump on a call, if I'm going to do a live stream, I just pop in the Vivo buds. And so I saw that they had Vivo buds too. I was like, hey, I'm reviewing this phone over here.
To me that would have been well. So what to answer is once you get your pair, obviously we'll be able to do the Faraday cage configuration. The one seems to be able to break every pair of buds. So those are going to be next week. So I'm assuming. So the next video would be probably sometime next week or so.
Yeah, we're gonna space them out a week apart, and then when we're done with that trio, I'm gonna put together my thoughts on using it as a phone.
Okay.
They reached out to me specifically to talk about content creation, mobile content creation, and camera tech. I obviously, because again, I'm putting disclosures out there. I'm working with this brand. We are sponsored. Money is being exchanged. I'm taking this very seriously in how we're talking about this product. But I was a huge fan of the X70 Pro Plus before we ever started. I was probably the biggest fan of the X70 Pro Plus.
I remember
before.
how excited you were at the announcement of it, and then later on when you were able to be able to start unit testing it. So
I'm looking like, next week is going to be video 2. The week after that's going to be video 3, and then the week after that, I am going to be putting together a rest of the phone kind of video. That's not going to be sponsored by Vivo. That's not what I'm working on with them to accomplish. But I'm really not. I'm really not comfortable calling it a review when I've been working so closely with the company. Like I feel I've got a different kind of emotional stake in the product now, and I feel like I don't claim to ever have objectivity, but I now definitely have a much different kind of subjectivity to this. But there are still a lot of things that I think I can talk about that might help people who are looking at different types of phones or premium kinds of experiences. There's definitely a lot we can talk about for performance, because I feel that's always a controversial topic when we're talking about 8 Gen 1. So there will be a 4th video that's just me. That's not, a part of this sponsored series from Vivo. But that I want to get these camera videos out first, just because this is exactly why I fell in love with the X70 Pro Plus. If you were a fan of LG cameras, this feels a lot like the funkiness that we had on LG, that you could turn it into whatever type of camera shooting experience you wanted. Only it's next level AI stuff. So it's like all the goodness that I love on my V60 with one of the best camera sensors on the market today and ridiculous coprocessor. It predicts things in ways that, again, it's mind-boggling sometimes how good it is at that stuff.
I like it. So that sounds like it's probably going to be more or closer to mid-June, as we are kind of rounding off the month. I mean, we have 11 days left. It's and we also have a holiday, which. Hey, light on your show again. That's one thing about having a show on Monday. You get all the holidays.
Yep.
But so for me, I'm trying to do so for me, I have another Buds video going up tomorrow. And then I think a video. I want to put a video with. I still have some footage left from the Xperia 1 Mark IV, and I'm going to be putting together my top 5 feature, more of a. I think a teaser video to try to get people interested to maybe watch the 30-minute video, because I didn't realize I was going to be making a 30-minute video till I was done editing said video.
Yeah, it just kind of happens that way.
Well, I mean, so what I feel like as a till we meet again type of a homage letter or something like that to the
For sure.
Xperia 1 Mark IV, a top 5 video. So hopefully coming out this weekend.
Nice.
I have a few things coming up. I want to put some more phones and stuff like that, devices, hopefully coming up in the near future. Nothing here yet, but so not time, no embargoes to be broken, but yeah, I'm trying to get back into my groove. Let's just say that. This week was weird.
I feel but
Last week I
over 2
I burnt
weeks.
out hard last week, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize how bad it was. Till I was like, when we did the stream on Saturday and it was over, I was like, I just wanted to lay down and just do nothing, kind of thing. It was one of those.
Same.
It was it was a tough week, and then day job just kind of took over this week for me. Seriously, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was out of pocket entirely the whole time, and I barely was able to squeeze out one video for the LinkBuds. But what else are we? What else can we see from you? Are you any new slick deals?
I don't know what my schedule's like for Slick Deals videos. I'm going in to shoot on Tuesday, and
Okay.
then I'm not sure how much I can say about reviews.org just yet, but we're going to be doing a channel shakeup.
Okay.
And so I can't tell you what that's going to look like, but I basically have like 4 or 5 videos in reserve with them now.
Okay,
that
good.
are going to be distributed in different ways from how we've normally been doing our videos. So that's going to be interesting if I don't totally know what it's going to look like just yet. So next up for me, I want to do, and what's funny is like what I just expressed when we were talking about the X80 Pro versus the Sony 1 Mark IV, I kind of want to do a video where I just say sort of what I just already just said. Like these are like the best camera phones on the market today, and they couldn't be more different if they tried. So I'm going to try and get a video like that out maybe end of next week. I've got a script written for some Sony audio tech that's going to be going to the Patreon. So talking about the speaker performance and the headphone performance of the 1 Mark IV. Again, this is still from a prototype phone, so I'm not calling it this is the review of how your retail unit will perform.
Obviously, you don't do YouTube, man. You need to know. Review definitive day one, first minute of you getting the phone. You make a video and say, "This."
I took it out of the box. Here's the full review. Don't buy it
on this phone. Buy it.
And I got my Steam Deck video out. Yeah. I'm gonna be doing some more gaming in very small and focused ways on my channel. Kind of like how I burn through headphone reviews and then I got to take a break. Then I got to burn through phone reviews and I got to take a break. And I'm gonna be mixing in a little bit more gaming. But one of the things that I want to start with is getting a better lay of the land on gaming phones. So I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Red Magic 7 Pro and the Poco F4 GT. Just to kind of start this off, this is a mobile idea of gaming, and then I want to use that to kind of lead into phone gaming versus a Steam Deck versus a gaming laptop. These other things that we can talk about, like how do you move a game out of an environment? We know the Switch really well. We totally get that. But there are other game philosophies, game stores, game downloading services, game streaming services. And I feel like this is one of those ways that we can really talk about what sort of next generation services are going to look like. If you spend your time downloading and installing a game versus firing up Xbox, which now you can do on the Steam Deck really easily to stream your games. So that's going to be an evolving conversation. And I still need to get back to just some older phones. Like I've been dying to talk about the Pixel 6 Pro. It's been so good after these last couple updates. I've been dying to talk about the Duo 2. I've said it on this podcast like the last month. I want to talk about the Duo 2 again because it's so good on these recent updates. So there's a lot that I need to circle back to over the summer, and hopefully we can kind of expand on all of these. You and me both have been in such a rush to get embargo, launch, embargo, launch, embargo, launch. And you're like, now I need to take some time and have fun with this, or I'm gonna go crazy. If I don't get to really play with these things and I'm just constantly announcing them,
Mhm.
then no one is gonna have fun with this stuff.
No, no, I hear you. I'm with you. Yeah, no, you're right. We need. I'm probably at the beginning of an earbud cycle, but
Super cycle.
super cycle. Well, because the XM5s are coming in tomorrow, and I have a couple of more, another pair of buds coming in next week. Although it's
Yeah.
slightly different, buds over ear kind of thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm looking forward to enjoying the. Let's say this. I'm looking forward to enjoying the XM5s this weekend. I think that's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on that one while I'm waiting for the next pair to come in. Um, but that's good. We'll see some variety. A little bit of slick deals, a little bit of reviews.org, and some stuff on your channel. And yeah, I'm trying to get back into somewhat of a normal, somewhat schedule. And it's hard. Um,
Yeah.
I fell off the bandwagon, and every time I try, it just gets weirder. I so yeah, short. Long story short, extremely short. Long story short. Um, Next week it'll be also kind of going back on the road for that, and then kind of just more normalizing, and just creating content that I enjoy, and the same way you do. Create content that you enjoy and you like, enjoying there. Uh, I hear your thoughts on the 6 Pro updates. Yeah, no, definitely. Uh, for me, I mean, overall, did you also update the camera, or did you got the camera update as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
No, I
So
mean it's been great. Like I feel like I've got my Pixel 5 in the other room. That's running the Android 13 beta, and there's a lot that I like about what's going on just for sort of polishing up Android 12. But even on Android 12, which I think we can all agree was sort of a bummer of an in-betweener update between
yeah,
11 and 13,
yeah,
even on Android 12, the Pixel 6 Pro is holding onto my SIM card, and it's doing really well.
yeah.
In
I
every
have it
way
on
that I
AT
was
and
like,
T. It works very nicely. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like, in every way that I was really disappointed with the Galaxy S22, and how I keep seeing these headlines. Like, there was another one that hit my newsfeed, like, Samsung releases yet another update in the same month to polish up performance on the S22, and you're like, that's not good, guys.
no,
If they're scrambling to put out multiple patches, like 2 patches a month, and they've been doing that for off and on a couple months since launch, that's not confidence inspiring for the
yeah.
state of that phone and the performance of that phone. And yeah, Google had a big misstep when they had to pull an update for the Pixel 6 Pro. That's definitely embarrassing. Since then, it's been an absolute beast.
Yeah, and
It's been really
we've
good.
gotten new features, new languages, a lot
Yeah.
more things added on it, and we also know obviously the future, with the near future, seeing how does Tensor work in a more of a budget experience, what compromises the Pixel 6a will give us. Um,
Yeah.
Knowing that that's literally in July, like they gave us the date, July 21st, we know. And I want to, hopefully see maybe some more stuff on the watch, the buds, and so on, some of the other things going on. But it makes me also excited to see what the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro's approach is going to be
For sure.
with Tensor Gen 2, or whatever the new version of
But at
Tensor
this
is going to be
point,
called.
I'm so over the phone launched and it had some bugs. We're gonna be outraged unless it's Samsung or Apple. That's totally okay for those two companies to have bugs. But any other phone, that's a deal breaker. Because
It
like
is.
seriously, the over the same period of time, with even bigger issues to work on, I think Google has maintained my affinity for how good they are at iterating on software. And I can't say that I had the same experience on Samsung, not on the S22, not on the Note 22.
Hmm.
And I feel like we're in ballparks where like OnePlus will get slammed and will get a negative review for something that you will almost take for granted is a problem on a Samsung. Every single phone is going to launch, and because of how ridiculous and aggressive our yearly update cycle is,
Hmm.
if you're going to be bleeding edge, expect the bugs. And it doesn't matter who you're buying, it will have the bugs. And if you're impressed by a number of updates, then get a Samsung. If you're impressed by a quality of
You have
updates,
updates.
maybe don't get a Samsung. And that kind of nuance in this conversation is totally lost on the
Yeah.
people that just blindly click through like Reddit links on a tech forum or a tech
Mhm.
subreddit. Because again, it's like I already have a fondness for how Google handles things like their display tech and their call tech and their messaging and all that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's why I like those features. But I'm also like, hey, when I'm focusing on those kinds of features, Google is actually fixing their issues better than any other player in the game right now. And it's hilarious when you see like massive issues with cameras, massive security holes on iPhones, and
Yeah.
then people are still like, "Oh, but I guess iPhones have the best software." And you're like, "No, it's a computer like any other, and it's got a bunch of problems. And we hope that we can fix the problems before they become consumer
I
catastrophes,
was gonna say catastrophe or lawsuits, but yeah.
but there's no guarantee. Is, you know, like again, it's not like Apple really has done that better. It's just their marketing is more effective, and
They have
that's the thing that kind of gets me. It's why I'm so desperate to kind of get back into this, because like the Duo 2 is such a radical experiment in cutting up Android UI,
mhm.
and now it's working really well. Duo 1 unfortunately wasn't ever polished to that point until we got the Duo 2.
The
But
Duo
even
2
the
feels
Duo
like a
1 is,
very different phone. It's a very different um
because
it,
they had to completely break Android to make it do things that
it
Android wasn't
but
meant to do. And
yeah,
now
yeah.
even the Duo 1 is doing that phenomenally better. But we had to go through an entire generation of hardware to get the Duo 1 feeling that smooth.
No, no, I think I appreciate all of the things that the Duo One stood for, and the fact that it still is a phenomenal device to multitask on. And I feel like now we have to change the narrative based on which OEM is the issue, its issue in it. Google, no, I'm with you. I know Sammy
I'm
does
with
it.
you, Aditya. If Google does it, it's them covering up their mistakes. If Sammy does it, it shows their commitment for updates.
It
No,
is. I know.
more
I know.
software is not better software.
No, and not only that, it hasn't improved the battery life. This is the problem. I've been dealing with battery issues on the 22 Ultra, and it still has. I still feel like it shouldn't be going through a 5,000 milliampere battery this fast. The 21 Ultra did not. So I'm
You know
waiting for
what?
the update.
I mean, I'm with you, and we should probably start wrapping this up because I do need to get going.
No, no,
I'm with you on that, but it's like for something like that, like I can't really blame Samsung. Um,
it's
like it's sort of the perfect storm of overselling and overhyping a feature like 120 hertz high refresh rate displays
yeah.
at the same time that the SoC market has radically, I think, over focused on GPU performance, but
Well,
not pinning GPU performance to a better performance per watt efficiency, and
yes, yes, that's true.
instituting what's still kind of a, a sloppy rollout of new radio technologies. And so I pick up my LG V60 and it regularly still gets my SIM card because we can at least cut back on screen resolution and refresh rate.
Yeah.
And the 865 is so much more efficient performance per watt that I can handle the 5G additional power draw so much better. And that phone, you know, it's, you think about how old the V60 is now. I'm
I've
still
still tried.
regularly getting over 9 hours of screen on time, often running two screens at the same time. And you cannot do that on a Note 22. You
No.
cannot do that on a OnePlus 10 Pro, on a Motorola, on a Sony. So anymore, it's like, it's not Samsung's fault. I wish that they were handling the performance better on the S22
Well,
because
yeah,
I
and I
feel
think
those
that
customers are getting ripped off.
yeah.
But you know, the Note 22 is built well. That is handling the 8 Gen 1 much better.
On day in day out,
It's the whole
absolutely.
industry.
It is, and then I also think it has to do. For me, it's not, I wasn't necessarily blaming Samsung specifically, but it's more so the software optimization. Typically, what I've had with Samsung devices, when I first get them out of the box, they work perfectly great. Radio does really well. I get really good connections,
Mm-hmm.
and after about a couple of days, there's a massive update that gets hit. Like the public, day one
Right.
update. And then suddenly the experience feels like it's a little bit throttled. Like my modem still doesn't connect as fast as it can.
Mm.
little things like that. Typically, that levels it out. That's usually where my experience kind of ends. Usually, the battery gets more comfortable a day and a half.
Mhm.
For me, on the S22 Ultra, if I'm really pushing it, or the Note 22 Ultra, if I'm pushing it and I'm going through, I can literally go through till maybe 2, 3 o'clock, and I have to plug it in like when it gets down to about 10%. And I'm home. I'm not even out. So this is the weird part about it. And I'm only getting maybe about 4.5 hours worth of screen on time. So it's not like I'm
Ooh.
8, 9 hours. Those are the things that I'm concerned. Keeping in mind that my
Yeah.
updates are T-Mobile updates; they're not regular Samsung updates. So I'm wondering what is in the background on the carrier side, possibly too, because those are other things that get inserted into our updates if you buy a carrier version of the phone.
Yeah.
So but long story short,
But
yeah,
I mean, like, I was expecting you to say like, oh, maybe I'm only getting six, maybe 7 hours of screen on time.
no,
If you're
five.
rocking 4,
Yeah, 5 if I'm stretching it and I dim a lot, but no. Um, I'm on
yeah, that
Wi-Fi. I should
hurts.
not. Yeah, so but I tend to the nice thing is I tend to typically switch over back to the Pixel 6 and then of course the 10 Pro, because I think for me those work a lot better.
People were talking trash about Tensor not having the bestest synthetic benchmarks, but
Well,
as
for
this
all,
thing has aged, and again, for everyone who was like, oh, but it's just Exynos trash and Google did this and they're just using Samsung, leftover parts.
leftovers. Yeah, yeah.
This thing is not performing like an Exynos Galaxy. This thing is performing like a competitive, comparable phone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really good.
The Tensor itself, after the December update, which I actually did install on mine, I manually installed it um, before it was pulled, and then I realized that it keeps getting better. Cameras get better. You
Okay.
get more functionalities, everything in there.
Um,
And you,
an hour of YouTube, 10 minutes of Twitter, 9 minutes of Reddit, 9 minutes of Instagram, and 6 hours of Netflix. So I'm at 7 hours and 36 minutes of screen on time for my
the
Pixel
Pixel.
6 Pro, and I'm at 35% battery.
That's stupid crazy, man. That is okay. Yeah. Well, but Samsung is Samsung, man. That's my answer. Samsung is Samsung.
I feel a Note 22 should be no, so, and I'm not putting this on you. I
Yeah, yeah.
feel a Note 22 should be doing better
No, absolutely. And it needs
without
to.
people needing to tweak a whole bunch of stuff to
Yeah.
get it there. Because I'm at Quad HD and I'm just letting it do the adaptive 120 hertz, but obviously it scales down to a lower refresh rate most of the time on my Pixel 6 Pro. So I'm not doing anything fancy to
Yeah.
customize what's going on here. But for like passive video streaming where I've just had it on most of my day while editing, I feel like 7.5 hours is pretty good.
It
Like,
should. No.
that doesn't suck.
6+ hours is what I expect. I typically never get into the 8 or 9. But when in the last 3 to 4 updates that have been coming through, I haven't noticed any improvements in battery life. And that's,
Yeah.
to me, it's a concern. And I know it's an update, but I don't know specifically, again, if it's the Samsung update specifically, or is it the T-Mobile validation process, or
And
whatever they end up doing.
and also I feel it's too many cooks. I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's
and,
a major
this is
problem with
always,
Samsung.
whenever it comes to carriers, it is a very different beast. And it used to be at one point where the carriers would get the updates first. Samsung flipped the game on us. They're like saying, well, unlocked models will get the update later after the carriers get it, and so on. So now it's a
So
little bit more, I don't know.
I mean I share your frustration there,
Yeah,
and it's
I
one of the things
I
like I'm
really wish I
obviously
didn't
being really
get the carrier
snarky.
version. I wanted to get the
Well,
unlock, and I
but
shouldn't have.
again, this is what's so frustrating because like you want to be able to say that as a techie, like, hey, if you care about this and you want these kinds of updates, then this is what you buy. But Samsung is big enough, but they're not so big that they
Yeah,
can dictate terms to the carriers.
no,
So if you
they're not
buy
Apple yet.
unlocked, no, but if you buy unlocked, there's no guarantee that you will properly get support for like
Oh,
T-Mobile's UC or
yeah, yeah,
Verizon's millimeter wave. They're using 5G as these pain points to lock consumers in and to get them buying phones in a specific way and forcing a company like Samsung. I am no fan of Samsung. I do not think this is their fault. I think this is
okay.
the ridiculous, complex relationship between a manufacturer and a carrier getting in between the manufacturer and their customers that for some reason Apple is allowed to do whatever they want,
Yeah,
and no other company is. And then what I will blame Samsung for is spreading themselves out too thin with too many phones, too many different regional variants, and Exynos that is ridiculously underperforming. And I don't think they can keep up with software issues on 6 different variations of S22 phone that have different SoCs and different radios and different things to consider that then get chewed up by the carrier approval process whenever they're ready to roll out an update. It's too much, and Samsung doesn't have the leverage to say, this is the way we're doing it, this is the phone we're making, and this is how we're going to sell it. They have to play this game with carriers because they know that here in the United States, Apple's going to eat them for lunch every single time, so the carriers don't have any vested interest in promoting Samsung unless Samsung's really playing ball and paying for the marketing and paying for the price cuts.
Probably. No, I know it. Our carrier conversations change the way mobile is viewed in the market, especially because they control such a big part of it. A lot of people reference their stores. They go to Best Buy or go any electronics store. That's typically what they see. They see like a carrier booth inside of that physical store.
Yeah.
But it does make things a little more complicated, as Juan was saying. It's like, jumping from T-Mobile UC from the ultra capacity over to Verizon 5G or like ultra wideband. It's not a simple process. It actually is much more complicated than it should be.
Yeah,
let's say that.
But we should probably be the thing we tack out, because actually, I mean, I've been texting back and forth like, I'm almost done. I promise I'm almost done. I really do need to get going so we can.
With that being said, I do want to say first and foremost, thank you to everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks to Juan for bringing all the candy today. Apparently, he brought everything cool. The Steam Deck, the X80 Pro Plus, X80 Pro. And of course, more conversations. Sadly, the Xperia 1 Mark IV had to go back home, but maybe there'll be an opportunity for us later on. And Juan's about to go play video games. He's joking. He'll be.
I want to play games so bad. I gotta go do other things.
I will say, hope you guys have a great evening, morning, depending where you are. We will see you guys obviously next week for another episode of Best of Our Week, episode 71, hopefully. Of course, keep it with me here Saturday with the Android Bay, and Monday morning back with Juan with the SGG QA. He is the SGG to the QA of that show. That's the best way I'm going to be able to imitate him from Monday.
You just made it sound way cooler than I make it sound. So
I try. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.